Welcome back to another episode of Fighting Words. Carlin Gay sitting in for Carissa Maxwell, of course, joined by our senior combat editor, Tom Gray, and our senior combat writer, Andreas Hale. And both these gentlemen, you can see it on their face. They're excited to talk about this. KSI v. Tommy Fury coming up this weekend, of course, on DAZN. Tom, you know what? I'll start with you. You're jumping out of your skin to talk about this thing. Yeah. Who's winning the mind games between Logan Paul and Dillon Danis, who is on the undercard, but really should probably be the main event of this card?
Who are Logan Paul and Dillon Danis? No, I'm only kidding on. From what I hear on the grapevine, Dillon Danis talks his way into fights and then doesn't turn up. Andreas, is that right?
That is correct.
Yeah, so I think ultimately if you've got a reputation for not turning up for work, then I think Logan Paul must be winning the mind game so far until they get into the ring. Andreas, over to you.
Yeah, look, man, I pay more attention to this than I should because everything is pro wrestling and I treat this like pro wrestling. But Dillon Danis posting pictures and all Logan Paul's fiance's boyfriends, that doesn't do anything. It doesn't matter because Dillon Danis has fought 2 MMA fights in his career. He's 2-0, but he hasn't fought anybody. And he hasn't fought in a few years. And he doesn't have good hands. And none of this stuff matters. You can talk all the trash that you want. You can troll as much as you want to get restraining orders, but it ain't going to help you fight on fight night. So while Dillon Danis is doing a fantastic job of getting the attention of people and getting more followers on social media and getting more people interested in this fight, he's going to get his ass kicked because he can't fight. So the next best thing is sell the fight and make some money. Just hope he shows up. That's all we ask for. Please show up this time.
Yeah, that's part of the gig, really, isn't it? To sell the fight. And I'm going to give the edge to Dillon Danis, though, because he has been entertaining on social media, by the way. And if you don't think that he's gotten a little bit under Logan Paul's skin going into this fight, I think you're wrong. Because Logan Paul tried to pull out that weird, like, I broke my wrist situation. That was total weird. I know, Tom, it's all over your head, Tom, but yeah, we're getting there. Coming back to you, Tom. Would a Dillon Danis win in this fight against Jake Paul, or rather Logan Paul, be an upset victory, considering, as we just talked about, he barely gets in the ring. Andreas just made fun of his hands. It sounds like Andreas wants to fight him and thinks he could beat him too. But what do you think about this one?
Logan Paul, to me, is still the star attraction, and this guy has kind of talked his way into another fight. You know, just on the basis of star power, I think it would be an upset. I don't think either guy has got enough skills to where you're saying to yourself, well, this guy is so much better than this guy. I mean, I've seen Logan Paul and I don't really rate him either. So I think it would be an upset, but perhaps an upset you could foresee. Let's put it that way. Dillon Danis to me is some sort of cartoon figure by the sounds of it, and Logan Paul at least takes the game a bit seriously, right?
Yeah, I mean, look, man. Logan Paul is 0-1 in his professional boxing career, and Dillon Danis is 0-0. Like, what are we talking about here, right? So, if Dillon Danis were to win, it's an upset because Dillon Danis, we've never seen him in a boxing ring. He's known for his jiu-jitsu. He's known for his ground game. We've never, ever talked about this man's hands. So that would be an upset, but it's not like Logan Paul is a world beater. He got carried by Floyd Mayweather. He lost to KSI in a boxing match years ago, and he's a pro wrestler. What are we talking about? An upset? I mean, I'd be upset if we expected a great fight. It's just going to be 2 guys throwing hands like a schoolyard. That's all we can expect.
I think Logan Paul's fans would be upset. That's about the size of the upset. It's hardly seismic.
Both of you guys, I want to say both of you guys don't really take this fight, this Logan Paul Dillon Danis fight seriously. I'll go out on the limb and say that. But what's stopping you guys from calling these guys professional boxers? Like what do you need to see from either of these two to be a professional boxer? Andreas is laughing. Tom, I'll let you answer first because Andreas is busy laughing.
I'm laughing because I know this is getting under Tom's skin because this is such an easy answer, but I can't wait to hear the answer.
Yeah, no, like I'll address it the way I think is fair. These guys are entertainers, and that, you know, at the end of the day, there'll be a lot of money kicking around, and that's because they're appealing to a demographic that buys into it, who want to be entertained. Andreas mentioned the kind of linked to wrestling. I know that the fights aren't fixed per se, not that I know of. But a professional boxer to me...
Come on, Tom, don't do that. Don't do that. The fights aren't fixed. We have to give credit where credit's due. They're going in there and they're trying their best to knock each other out.
It's authentic combat. They're not coming up through. They're not coming up through the amateur ranks. They've not learned their trade in the same way as a young kid that's hungry when he goes into the gym, that smells the leather off the bags, that does goes through full amateur seasons and basically puts in their graft. They've gate crashed in a way, leaped into a level where people are wanting to watch them, but they've not got the requisite skill sets. They don't know enough to be considered true professional boxers. And that's, even if they're making the transition from MMA, for example, you've just not been doing enough in the gym to learn these things, to learn the proper skills of the game. And it shows. I mean, I've only really watched... I watched extended highlights of Jake Paul and Tommy Fury, and I can see a mile away that Jake Paul, who I think is a good athlete, and he's a fighter because it takes guts to go into the ring at any level, he doesn't really box too good. And that's just the bottom line. And I'm not being condescending. That's just what was in front of my face.
Man, that was a good answer, Tom. I'm going to keep it real simple. Hey, Carlin, if I go out, shoot a 3-pointer for the Milwaukee Bucks in practice, does that make me a pro basketball player? No, it doesn't. So it's like, these guys aren't professionals in any way, shape, or form. The barrier to entry for boxing is so easy to get into now, right? It just takes a little bit of money and a little bit of attention. As Tom mentioned, you don't have to go through an amateur rank. You don't have to get drafted in the NBA. You have to get drafted to play basketball. You don't have to do this in boxing. The barrier for entry is low. So no, it's fun to see these guys fighting because it's a universal language. We all like to see people throw hands, but there's nothing professional about it. They just put on some gloves and call themselves boxers, but they're not. I can shoot a 3-pointer right now on an NBA court. That doesn't make me a pro basketball player. So
yeah,
no.
But there's a difference though, because they're not shooting, the NBA analogy I would say is a little bit different, because we're not comparing these guys to the top of the game, right? Like, we're not expecting Jake Paul to fight Canelo Alvarez eventually, or fight any of the world champions, right? Like, we're not expecting that. So that's the top of the level. But if you were walking off the street and you went and played somewhere overseas in a lower level league, you're still a professional basketball player. And I feel like that's what these gentlemen are doing, and some of the women on the card are doing. It may not be to the skill level that you would want, but I still would consider them boxers. They're still putting in the game. They're putting in the training. They're still going in and putting in that work. As you guys said, they're respecting the game itself. The barrier for entry may be low, but they're entering and they're crossing that barrier. They're getting in the ring, which takes guts in itself. Why wouldn't you consider them boxers? I don't get that part of it. You can make fun of the skill all you want. I don't kind of get the gatekeeping, so to speak, with the pro boxer.
Wait, hold on. I'll say this. If I play at the Boys and Girls Club every weekend and I practice and I shoot my free throws very seriously every day,
sure.
It doesn't make me a pro basketball player. Again, the barrier for entry is difficult. If you play on a pro league,
like when Manny Pacquiao went back home to the Philippines and played in a pro game, he was a pro basketball player.
All right, fine. If you want to call these guys pro,
I'm not having it. Right? Most professional sports are regulated, right? So it's the NFL for you guys in American football. It's FIFA over here for soccer. There's tennis associations in it, and it's all global. Like, basically, in boxing, you're allowed to gate crash. Otherwise, this wouldn't be happening, because boxing, and I've said it before, I said it on the radio recently, is like the Wild West. You've come in with a bunch of money, gate crash the sport. There's a lot of kids out there that like you. It's a demographic that pro boxing doesn't tap into. You're taking advantage of that. You're making a ton of money. You're not a pro. And that's it. You're drawing my sting. I watched Jake Paul, and he didn't have the slack. I'll put it this way. I could take Jake Paul into an ABC in the UK and get him an absolute and utter pasting. Not of a professional, of an amateur. His size, an absolute and utter pasting. So it gets marketed as professional boxing. BoxRec jump on it. Maurizio Sullivan will turn around and say, we might give him a world rating. Garbage. He doesn't know what he's doing. And that's it.
feel like you guys are being a little too tough, but we'll continue on here. The main event is KSI and Tommy Fury, in my opinion, a pro boxing match with a guy who's fought legit boxers, right? Like in Tommy Fury, he's fought legit boxers in your opinion, right? He's now facing a guy that is more known for his antics on YouTube in the main event of this fight. And KSI kind of presents an awkward style because, right, he's not a pro boxer. He doesn't have the skill level of someone that you would want to step into a ring with, a Tommy Fury. So can his unorthodox boxing lead to a win and an upset win over Tommy Fury?
No. We've already seen
the slightest bit.
No, I mean, because look, we see when it came to the Jake Paul fight, I didn't really know how to assess it because I'd seen Jake Paul throw a punch that took 3 seconds to land. Right, and it could maybe land something like that on Tommy Fury. But what I did see in the extended highlights were even Tommy Fury, who would be considered a novice pro at this point, was at least 2 or 3 levels ahead. In fact, more than that. He was the one that looked like he knew what he was doing. And he's in against a guy over, is it 6 or 8 rounds, that's of a similar ilk. So really, I mean, you'd give KSI maybe a puncher's chance, but I don't think he'll score. I think he'll get outboxed. And you're still able to market this as a matchup because KSI has got a fan base. And he's like Jake Paul, he's an entrepreneur and an entertainer. That's what you're going on. The fight will be disappointing, and Tommy Fury will probably win it on points. We've kind of seen Tommy Fury at this level. He's laughing all the way to the bank.
Yeah, the laughing part is true. He is laughing all the way to the bank. It's interesting, Carlin, because you said that Tommy Fury fought pro boxers. Like, did you see the record of these guys? Tommy Fury.
We had this out. Tommy Fury has fought journeymen, and that's what you're meant to do when you're coming up. And listen, he might have fought guys who had poor records, but it was enough to make Jake Paul look like an idiot. You need to acknowledge that.
No, it's fair. But, when we talk about, pro boxers and these guys are pro boxers, it's just in title alone, right? Because the level of competition is different. And Tommy Fury has at least faced some pro boxers with pro boxing experience, and they've been in the gym. KSI hasn't fought anybody but, several YouTubers, and he got a knockout with a flying elbow in his last fight. So the difference in skill level is pretty, the gap is pretty wide for KSI and Tommy Fury. And I think Tommy Fury, to Tom's point, should easily box his way to a victory here, unless he just falls asleep at the wheel. Everybody has a puncher's chance. Francis Ngannou's getting ready to fight Tyson Fury. He has a puncher's chance, but that window is so very, very small and limited and unlikely that's probably not going to happen unless the opponent does something completely out of character and just leaves themselves wide open and puts their face in front of a fist, say, please hit me. I don't think Tommy's going to do that. I think he's just going to outbox KSI and win a decision in a relatively boring fight.
Should be a good card this Saturday. Before we get out of here, I want to go through the card and get your guys' predictions. Tom, you just had Tommy Fury beating KSI. Give me your prediction for Logan Paul, Dillon Danis.
Dillon Danis doesn't show up. I step in and knock out Logan Paul.
Jerry, you could concur?
I mean, if that's what Tom wants to do, I'm not going to be there. But if you ask me for my real prediction, I think Logan Paul is going to beat Dillon Danis. He's just bigger, stronger. Has a little bit of boxing skill, and Dillon Danis has none. So I hope Logan knocks him out and shuts Dillon Danis up. So I'm going to pick Logan Paul by knockout.
Logan, I do not want to fight you, mate, and I think you're going to beat Dillon Danis.
Well, that's a fight that everyone. Those 2 fights are the ones that everyone's tuning into. But I know Tom's excited about Dean the Great against Waleed Sharks. Tom, who has it?
What was it? What was the second guy's name?
Waleed Sharks.
Oh, Sharks all the way. Just for having the word Sharks in his name.
See, it's either 1 or 2. I'm going to go with Dean the Great because I've actually seen him. I've seen them both fight, but I'm going with Dean.
This one is near and dear to Andreas' heart because it's pro wrestling. But we have a tag team match on the card. I don't know if Tom, I don't know if you knew that.
Nope.
What do you think about, first of all, before I go there, what do you think about tag team boxing? Is that a division that we're kind of in tap market, in my opinion?
I've never seen it. I think I've maybe seen photographs of it, but I've never witnessed tag team boxing before.
Well, you're about to see it on Saturday night. Wasabi LMAO taking on Los Pina Coladas. Who do you have coming out as the victorious team in that one?
Pina Coladas. all the way. Even if they've been drinking pina coladas before the fight. All day.
Look, Tom, you're going to have to watch this. Drink a few pina coladas and watch this fight. It's ridiculous. Tag team boxing is so ridiculous that I can't help but enjoy it. But I'm going to go with pina coladas as well because I like alcohol. Yeah.
All right, prelims. We'll go 2 off of this one. Swarms again versus Ryan Taylor. There's just a regular name. Maybe he's a pro boxer.
Swarms.
I mean, I'm going to go with Swarms. This man can't even contain himself. I'm going to go with Swarms too. He's like this, this guy, this YouTuber influencer that's gotten beat up a few times, but it's like, I don't think he wants to get beat up anymore. So I'm going to go with Swarms finally figuring it out and getting a win.
All right, this is the people's main event. Astrid Wet versus Alexia Grace. Don't Google those two unless you're over the age of 18. Tom, who do you have?
What was the first name? Asses Wet?
Astrid Wet.
Yeah, I think he wins.
What's a girl? Go ahead, Andreas. Who do you have?
I'm just gonna agree with Tom. I'm just gonna agree with Tom. Yeah.
All right, that's in the flyweight, by the way. Those two women will do combat on Saturday night as well. Hope you guys enjoy the card as much as we have enjoyed this week's episode of Fighting Words. For our senior combat editor, Tom Gray, our senior combat writer, Andreas Hale. Thankfully, Carissa Maxwell will be back in this chair next week. I'm Carla Gay. We'll see you.